All right, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jay Reed. I'm here with another episode of Meet the Entrepreneur. All right, so I got my guy Darnell Leslie here, former professional football player, now real estate mogul. So we really want to just hop in and get right to it and tackle some of these questions. How you feeling today, my guy?
Good, bro. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for hopping on the show.
Always a pleasure. Chop it up, man.
So, man, it's you. Let's talk to the people a little bit about your journey. You know, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for 20 plus years now. You loved football. That was a passion of yours. You did that at the highest level and every level in between. And then you pivoted to the real estate game. You want to just talk a little bit about, where that passion for football first came from, and then how you got into transitioning.
For sure, yeah. So, like Jamal mentioned, played professional football for a little bit and then retired and got a 9-to-5 in IT and then pivoted into real estate. And so for me, just starting way back, I started playing ball when I was 6 years old for the South Germantown Panthers, and then played for like 3 or 4 years, broke my wrist. Mom, she wasn't having it after that, so about 2 years didn't play. And it was all just bust them up, throw them up in the backyard in Bennington. And joined back and playing football, maybe about high school, like 8th grade, 9th grade year. And then was blessed to have a good career in high school and got a few offers to play in college. So took those opportunities and ran with them. And I went to Monmouth University, graduated in 2017. And I was blessed enough to be able to get scouted by the NFL here and there. And I played for the Cowboys my rookie year. Got sent up to Canada, played for the BC Lions for a little bit, came back home, played for the Steelers, and then from there played in the XFL, AAF, and a whole bunch of other spring leagues. So was definitely a journeyman, and through that entire transition, enjoyed myself, love football, still to this day love it, and I would never trade that experience for anything in the world, man.
Word, man. So it sounds like you've had a whole lot of experiences, in your time here. You've done a lot. When do you think, back to football, when do you think that you thought that you had a real chance to play in college? And then when did you realize you had a chance to really make it to the highest level, to the pros?
It was really, so disclaimer, I was never the best player on any of my teams. High school, I was never the best player. College, I was never the best player. In the NFL, I was never the best player, right? What got me by was just hard work, dedication, staying committed, staying prayed up, right? And so my high school senior year, I realized I was decent when I started getting colleges coming to the school, talking to my high school coach, Coach Mack, and I would get pulled out of class and go talk to these coaches for a little bit about who I am, what I like to do, blah, blah, blah. And so from then, I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, I could really probably play in college for a little bit. Might not be a 1A school, maybe 1AA, D2. I'm cool with it. I can play ball, continue my dream.
Right.
And then I had an offer from Monmouth come in, and I took that offer and ran with it because that was my first full ride. And so coming where we're from, anybody throw some money at you, you're probably going to take it. So didn't look back from there, took that opportunity and ran with it. Got to college, same kind of thing, right? Wasn't the best player on my team. Got to about my senior year, and I started getting some interest from the NFL. And then from that point, I'm like, well, maybe I don't have to go work a 9-to-5. I can probably just go play football, see how that takes me, and then and follow my path from there. So once my senior year came, I had a decent pro day, put up some good numbers, went to a few local day mini camp tryouts, things like that, and then Cowboys signed me to an undrafted free agent contract. And then from that, just kind of just ran with it, man. And then the league, obviously I was a journeyman, bounced around from team to team, but again, all in all, great experience, and just kind of took everything as being like the underdog mentality. Yeah. That's really what just pushed me through my entire career.
That's dope, man. Like I said, so you got a whole bunch of experiences. I'm sure that was great for your network. Met people that have probably still do things to help you out now and then. Just it's always great to meet people. My next question would be your transition out of football. We've talked a little bit off camera about what led to that. What was that about? I know with a lot of people, when it comes to football, sometimes it's such a violent sport that you reach a point where, okay, I got to pick my body or this dream, this goal. So just to touch on that first, we're going to talk about this a little bit, but the first part is, what was that experience for you, kind of deciding that, maybe I'm going to hang this up and now try to figure out something else? What led to
For sure. So for me, I retired or stopped playing ball back in 2020. So COVID hit, shut the whole world down. So for me, it's like, all right, well, damn, my football season, I was playing in New York for the New York Guardians in the XFL, and it was already a spring league. It was a smaller tiered team in league I was in. So for me, like when you understand football and pro sports, you play basketball at that high level, you understand that dynamic. If you're not in front of these scouts, you're kind of irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer you stay out of their sight, you're more irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, understanding where I was in my career, playing for the XFL, 3 years removed from college at that point, these teams are looking for fresh linebackers. So for me, it's like COVID hit, shut the season down, shut my team down. And I'm sitting at home like, all right, well, I do have my damn education. Let me go back, get 1 or 2 certs, and put my resume out there. That's exactly what I did. And I just ran with it, bro. And now, fast forward 2 or 3 years from that point, I'm now pivoting into real estate because I realized 9 to 5 really ain't for me.
Yeah.
Like that 9 to 5 work life just isn't for me. So I want to use that as long as I can to kind of fund my business and build my business that way, and then pivot out of that into full-time entrepreneurship. So the change really came from COVID. So shout out COVID. You know, it really forced everybody to pivot in a sense, right?
It did. It made you have to get comfortable with yourself and who you are. It put a lot of things into perspective for a lot of people. So COVID was bad, you know, for some of the collateral damage that it caused, but it also had some silver linings, some great moments.
Yeah.
So you said something just now, you know, talking about your pivot out of that. So did any part of your decision to get out of football, we know that it had to do also with just, you know, the politics, you're looking for new, fresh guys. Did it have anything to also do with now your body? You know, did you have like that moment where you were like, it's not worth it right now, let me just try to figure something else out? Or
Yeah. I mean, any pro athletes, they're not going to tell you that they don't get hurt. Like, we all get hurt if it's a hamstring or a broken bone. And for me, I was damn near hurt. I probably got hurt once every season at some point. Could have been fractured finger, broken foot, whatever the case was. But health was definitely a factor for me because I realized that, one, I'm getting older, so my body is getting probably a little more fragile. But two, I'm healthy in the sense where I have my good mind about me. I'm not limping. I'm not, you know, waking out of bed, crawling around hurt. So that chance to kind of step away from football with my good health about me and having everything with me in working order, that was also a big thing because I wanted to step away on my own terms, not because a team cut me off because I got hurt, right? I wanted to step away because I knew I still had something left to give to the world outside of football, right? With my brain or with, you know, my other talents and skills that I could have. So for me, health was definitely a factor, and I'm thankful to God that I was able to get out without any major injuries, right? That a lot of players probably do have.
Right. So it sounds like that was like a bittersweet moment. You know, I'm kind of deciding, okay, I'm going to hang it up with this dream I've had that's gotten me this far, but now it's time for something new. So along those lines, that leads me to my next question that I think many athletes or former athletes face is that now what's next? That almost identity crisis of for so long, for so many years, I only saw myself as this athlete, as this person. Now this is done, and a lot of times, any athlete, most of us, we didn't think far enough to think, what do we do next? We just thought about every day, the moment, hitting that goal of getting to the pros. You know what you did. So, talk to them a little bit about what was that identity crisis for you. You know, what steps did you take to kind of figure out your next passions in life or your next moves, and then what did you do?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you hit it on the head, bro. Like, as an athlete, like we were talking about, like, you're taught to be a student athlete. Nobody cares about the student part. We want to just play ball. So you're really an athlete in a sense.
Yeah.
And when you're growing up, you're always taught never playing B, always playing A. There's no playing B. Your playing B is your playing A. That was literally ingrained in my mind, bro. Like, I'm going to play football professionally. I'm going to chase my dream, and that's it.
Yeah.
But what else is Darnell like? And so when COVID happened and the whole world kind of shut down and everybody's in their little cocoon, for me, I lost football, but then I also had to figure out what was next for me after football.
Right.
I knew I wasn't going to go back and play ball again because at that point I was just okay. Like I mentioned before, like I had my wits about me. I'm in good health. So I knew I was comfortable with stepping away from football, but I didn't know what would happen after, bro. So like for me, the identity crisis was, what else is Darnell like? Right. What else do I like? So that was where I was really sitting in my room like, football's done. I can still go work out. Working out is cool, but like, what am I working out for? Staying in shape, great, but like I'm not tackling nobody, so I'll still work out here and there. It's cool. But the crisis came when you're really thinking like, all right, well, again, what is Darnell like? So I had to kind of sit down and figure that out for myself. And in all honesty, bro, like I like ceramics. Like I like using my hands. I like being an engineer. I'm an engineer by trade, software engineer. So I like using my hands and thinking with my brain and just being really analytical about stuff. So for me, ceramics is one of the things that I kind of dove into a little bit. Started taking some classes for ceramics, throwing clay. That was one of the things that I was really interested in high school. So I kind of got back into that. But then also real estate. My last year playing ball, I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad, real cliche to anybody that's read that book, right? It's like the entrepreneur's Bible, right? So you read that book and you get hooked and you're like on the chase for money. So I read that book my last season playing in Canada. It didn't have an active like opportunity to invest in real estate until I was done playing ball just because of my time. And I was really in the analysis paralysis phase. So when I found Rich Dad Poor Dad, finished that book, and I immediately knew like 9 to 5, that's just going to be a cushion to get me somewhere else.
Yeah.
So when I read that book, I wanted to get into real estate. I want to start investing in the stocks. I want to start doing all these different things that can make me more money in the future, as opposed to just selling my time to somebody else.
Right.
So that's when that crisis happened, man. I kind of sat myself down. I was like, what's next? You got to make a play. You got to go with something. And so I found real estate. Like I mentioned, I like using my hands, so I got into arts and crafts a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that went for me. But it was rough, bro. It was rough. Like, full transparency, bro. Like, I'm waking up upset, pissed at the world, dog. Like, what am I doing in my life?
Yeah.
Everybody else I know on Instagram is playing football. They're still chasing their dreams. What am I doing? And although it was an active choice on my side, it's like, you're not doing that no more. That's not you.
Right.
So it was definitely a phase, a mental phase for sure, where I had to kind of climb out of my own head and be like, look, you're more than just a football player. Like you mentioned. So it was rough, but I'm glad I went through that because that forced me to kind of open myself up to more opportunities in life than just football.
Right. That's a great message, I think, for most people, man, especially like the athletes out there. That's real, you know, like how to deal with, you know, the identity crisis if you don't like know yourself, which I've seen now, you know, at our ages that a lot of us before that crisis, we didn't really know ourselves. We knew what we liked to do up until this point, but that moment in time really puts you in a headspace where you got to know yourself on a deeper level. You know, it's sink or swim. What else can you do to, you know, now get money to be an adult, you know? So it, in a weird way, it was the identity crisis is a gift.
And that, but then also, what does just Jamal like in general outside of football?
Right.
Like, your identity can be more than just
what you
student
do.
athlete, but like, what else do you like? Do you like to read? Tap into reading. Do you like making content? Tap into making content. Do you like just going for hikes? Go on a damn hike. Like, just do more of whatever the things that you like to do on a daily basis, right? And that's what we were kind of missing as athletes growing up. We were taught, again, you're a basketball player. Play pro ball or you're not going to play basketball at all. Like you mentioned, you're not going overseas. Why?
Yeah.
When, like, that still could have been a great avenue.
We talked about that. We talked about it off camera. You know, like I was saying that for some reason, I wanted to go to the NBA. That was a sweet goal. But I also had somewhere in my mind that, well, if when reality set in, if I can't go to the NBA, I don't want to play basketball. Like, I don't want to play overseas. When the reality of it is like, well, if you take the ego out of it and you look at this in terms of like perspective, you can go make good money doing something that you like to do, maybe not at the NBA level, but still at a pro level, and it's fun, you know, but we're not thinking sometimes far enough, you know, for our next move. And even just outside of like sports, you know, I'm almost happy that the league didn't happen, you know, because it forced at least me to learn other skills or gifts that I like to do, you know, and reading for me was something that opened up the world, opened up my eyes to like so much more, you know, than just sports. You know, so I agree with you. For you, what would you say, what tips would you give people to find that next passion? What questions were you asking yourself? I know you said you were asking, what does Darnell like to do? But, you know, some deeper questions, like they really galvanized you or put you into action to like shift your perspective of who you thought you were to realizing who you are.
I think it's like, it was a real simple question though. Like, just what does Darnell like? Like, I really was sitting in my room like thinking like, bro, You love football with all your life. Football's done. What else can you do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you have an education, use your education. Tap into that, even though you might not love working for somebody else. You can use that as an avenue to get to what you do love, which again for me I found was investing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then just also tapping back into your memories. All right, what did I enjoy? Like I mentioned in high
Mm-hmm.
school, I started getting into ceramics in high school my junior senior year, so I knew I enjoyed doing ceramics and using my hands and being creative and working and just making stuff happen. So from that, I tapped back into making pottery and ceramics and stuff like that, using my hands and being creative in artwork. So I think the simple question is just ask yourself, what do you like to do?
Mm-hmm.
What would you do for free if you had the time? Right?
Mm.
That's what your passion is. That's probably what your hobbies should be built around. That's that
Mm-hmm.
community you should probably get involved in, because those are the things that if and when your job probably does end or you quit or get fired, that's what can kind of hold you whole and be centered in yourself, because you're still happy doing what you would do if it was for free.
Yeah.
And you weren't getting paid for that.
Right.
Right. So for me, that's what it was. And I would invest any time. Obviously, you don't want to invest and say, I'm not going to make money, but I enjoy the process of underwriting and looking at deals and looking at properties and things like that. So I would
Yeah.
do that continually, but then also just creating stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have to get paid to create, but I would enjoy it
Right.
if I didn't have to. Right.
Right.
So just asking yourself those few questions, man, and just understanding, like you said, who you are as a person.
Right. Right. What would you, and figuring out the answer to that question, what would you do for free, but would love to get paid to do?
Again, I'm not even going to say, like, I would love to get paid for real estate. Like, obviously, everybody want to get money investing. So I don't know if it applies to that context, because investing is all about making money, but I would definitely find ways to create real, like for what I do in real estate. I'm a house flipper and a long-term buy and hold investor.
Yeah.
Primarily flipping houses, doing the Burr method, all that good stuff. So I like taking things from its bare nature and making it better than what it was.
Yeah.
So I would probably continue doing that in a sense, but then also artwork, right? So those are two of the things that I would definitely do for free. I'm obviously reading. You got me into reading. Like, you really tapped me into reading, bro. Like, you gave me my first like 5 books I had, like on some real shit.
Damn, I didn't even
My
realize
first 5,
that.
bro. I got them to, like, you probably remember all the books you gave me. Like, we were like doing little book
Yeah.
exchanges. So like, you tapped me into that for sure, bro. So I appreciate you for that. And I would continue to read, because that's just endless knowledge, endless free content you can get to yourself. So I mean, I would read, find ways to educate myself, get into some sort of arts and crafts, and just give back, man, in any way.
No, that's real. Those are all real, man. Like, asking yourself those questions, reading, like you said. For me, I keep saying that because that was so big for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I had my, like, all right, what am I now moment. I know reading Think and Grow Rich was like, okay, whoa, this is a gem. This kind of gives you don't have all the answers, and I still don't have all the answers, but it kind of gives you a roadmap that you can use. It kind of can shift your mindset for when you're in a place of, I'm not sure what I want, and I'm not really sure how to get what I think I want or what to do next. You know, it can kind of just give you direction. So I think books in general are great for that, you know, and it's just so much, like you said, free game in these books out here, you know. So
I'm big in, like, bro, don't just read a book just to read it. Read a book that you can implement and be practical about, bro. You can read whatever you want, but if you're not going to use whatever, if it could be one section out of a 20 chapter book. If you can use one chapter out that 20 chapter book, then that book was successful.
Yeah.
Right? I hate when people just say, oh, I read 8 books this year. What are you using from those 8 books to make your life better?
Right.
If it's nothing, then you just wasted your damn time.
There's no point.
So there's endless stuff, endless knowledge and content you can get from books that can be valuable, but just make sure it's worth your time.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that, again, you put me on with, bro. Every book that I've read to this day, a piece of that book I use in my life. I guarantee you. And I'm not a big reader at all. I might read 3 books a year. Take my time. But there are books that I know when I read that summary, it's like, all right, I can probably learn something about that, and I can implement it in my life.
Right.
So it makes something out of it. So just being intentional about that.
And I agree with you on what you said. People who are like, I read 100 books this year. You know, it really does come down to, okay, why? You know, did you use that info? Because I find now, man, like, you'll read a book, and then now I'm like, I'm going to read it again. And you read it again, and you picked up some game, or you learned something that you didn't learn the last time. You know, I think I read something once. It's like, sometimes why that'll happen, while you'll read something a second or third time, each time you read it, you'll learn something new. It's because each time you read it, you're a different person.
100%.
You have a different perspective, so you receive something different from it.
100%.
You know, and I think that's like a beautiful thing about reading.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's just the same book.
Because it's changing perspective every time.
Every
so
time.
Your perspective is now different. So when you go back and read that same chapter,
Not who I
it's
was
from
before.
a different lens. So you're gonna pick up something new.
Yeah.
Ideally,
That's what should happen.
Again, just being intentional about it. Intentional about everything, man, in life. Like, I can't. I'm a risk taker. So
Yeah.
I'll see something that makes sense. It'll work. I'm going for it. But you still got to be intentional about that type of stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
so if you're gonna read all this stuff and those and all the content, just be intentional about what you're taking into your brain, because it's either going to waste your time and add no value, or it should add value in a sense.
Yeah.
On the flip side, so
it's funny you say that. You know, I was talking to my brother last week, and he was mentioning how important it is to feed yourself, not just with food, but like to be careful about the content that you're consuming and like the music, what you're reading, you know, and how the impact that all that has on your mental space and where you are, you know. And he was saying, you know, you listen to negative music or negative content all day, chances are you're going to have a negative perspective on life, you know. But if you're choosing to consume positive things, you know, the Les Browns of the world, the Jim Rohns, you know, these guys, chances are your mindset, you know, leans more towards the positive side, you know. And no one touch on that later, but while we're still in the mix, you know, transitioning out of football and now moving to real estate, what I know you said your teammate, right? Someone got you into like piqued your interest. No, it was the book. The book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, piqued your interest in the real estate. As I know it now, you're more into like the flipping side of real estate. Was that always what you knew you wanted to get into? Was you want to flip homes, or did you kind of just read up on real estate and eventually realize that, okay, this is the best thing for me?
It's like a mix, bro. So like, honestly, I got stuck in analysis paralysis. Like, again, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad last year in Canada, which was like 20.
Not to cut you off. Tell the people what analysis paralysis. Explain to them what that is, because we all go through that but don't know.
It's a deadly trap, bro. It's where you're really just it's the opposite of just taking action. You're there doing the things that you need to do to grow and get better without taking the action. So you're just analyzing something and you have paralysis about it because you're not moving. You're just consuming all this content, reading all these books, looking at all these YouTube videos, listening to podcasts, but you're not doing anything. And if you find yourself doing that for years on end, that's literally analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was in analysis paralysis for a good maybe 2.5 years. Again, my last year playing in Canada was 2018.
Yeah.
I read that Rich Dad Poor Dad book when I was in Ontario. Came home 2019, played in XFL. Came home again 2020, COVID hit, didn't really do nothing. And then I bought my first condo. And from then I'm like, well, damn, all right. I'm changing my condo from being a ugly looking little condo with carpet and nasty brown walls. I'm transforming that into something that looks nice. And so from that, it kind of clicked. It's like, bro, like you can really get into real estate. Like, you know, kind of the ins and outs. You've been educating yourself. And so I got my first condo. And then from there, I didn't want to be a flipper. Like, I wanted to really be like a buy and hold investor, because I learned about wealth. I learned throughout my entire analysis paralysis phase, I'm learning about wealth building and the racial wealth gap and how we're so far behind everybody else. All this obvious stuff about the Black community that we can hit on a whole different topic. But when I realized all that, I'm like, bro, I need to start holding these houses. How can I do that but also add value to these properties? And I found the BRRRR method. So I BRRRRed out my first house in DC. So I bought the property, renovated it. I'm planning on renting it out now on Airbnb, refinanced the property out from the construction loan, paid everybody off, and now I own the house with zero money out of my own pocket, right? So it's a hack that allows you to flip a property but also own it for long-term wealth. So I found that method, bro, and that's really my MO moving forward with every house I get. I want to hold every single property I find, mainly because of the wealth, building opportunities and legacy, all that good stuff. And so if I do have to flip a property, I'll flip it and make a profit. But if I can refinance out of that flip and hold it as a long-term rental, I'm doing that every single time. Even though the profit might not be the same, I'm looking at the long-term appreciation play, the tax write-offs, the loan pay down, the cash flow. I'm looking at every intangible about that play, because I don't just want the quick write off. I don't just want the quick
Right.
payout. I want the long term. So
Yeah.
I'm into flipping, but I'm into holding if I can hold as well. If that makes sense.
You wanna hold like the stock market. You're not a trader. You I want the long term benefits of this stock or this property.
I'm doing what the market gives me. So if the
Right.
rates are high at the point at which I want to refinance out of a fix and flip loan,
Mm-hmm.
I'll probably just flip the property, get rid of it because I'm not trying to pay 8% interest on an investor loan.
Right.
But if I can hold it when the rates do drop, I'm holding everything. I don't care about the profit today. I'm looking at 30, 40 years when I got kids growing up. They getting married. Take this crib.
Yeah.
That's
You
what
looking
I'm looking
long
at.
term. Okay.
Yeah, so definitely want to flip, but I'm more so trying to hold for sure.
Okay, so you said something that I want you to speak a little bit more about for the general population of people that maybe have never heard of this, which is probably most people. So, in layman's terms, can you explain the bird method? I've heard you know, me and you talk off camera about it, but just in a nutshell, explain it for people, the benefits of it, what it is, and why you recommend it, and why you like that method the most.
For sure. So the Burr method it's intricate. So if you're a new investor, I would not suggest you do the Burr method because it does take a long time, but it's something you definitely want to learn and understand because the concepts and the underwriting is similar to buying, holding a property, but also flipping a property, which is like the two dichotomy of real estate, the one or two you hold or you flip, right? So Burr method, you buy the property, ideally using a fix and flip loan, private money investors to get you into the property without using any of your own money, right? You renovate the property with the same loan from the bank, from the rehab loan. Then you rent the property out. So you get a tenant in that house or a part of the house. If like my house, I'm living in it. So I'm living upstairs and I'm renting out the basement to travel nurses. So you rent out the property. Once the property is rented out, you take that property to a small local bank, or it could be a big bank, right? And you say, look, this is my property. I have tenants in place. I want to refinance with your loan program. They'll give you a check for what that property will appraise for up to about 85% loan to value. So if your property is worth $500,000, they'll give you a check for $475. Say, this is your check. Do what you want with it. They're putting a mortgage on your property. So what I did, I got my check, paid off the construction loan, paid off my private money lenders, and put money in my pocket. After you refinance, the money in your pocket is the last R of the Burr method. You repeat that process. So you take that money and you invest into a whole another property, or you invest that money into your business and just rinse and repeat that cycle, bro.
Yeah.
So it could really be never ending if you think about it. And
Right.
so for me, that one method can get you one, equity in the property, can get you a tenant, it can get you loan pay down, cash flow, tax write-offs. That one method alone is literally the mix between buying and holding and fixing and flipping, which is why it's so golden. But again, if you're new to investing, I would not start there. I would learn about it and use those principles for either fix or flip or a buy and hold loan. But definitely something that you want to get into if you have the means to, for sure.
You just gave y'all a lot of free game. So I hope you pause, rewind that part, get a notebook, write that down. But you also told them that you wouldn't tell first-time investors to start there. So where would you recommend that a first-time real estate investor start?
So, and I'll go back. So the reason why I say that is because it's intricate. Like I mentioned, there's all those different pieces to the Burr method that have to map out perfectly with timing and financing and relationships wise. It can be dangerous if you're new to investing and you don't have somebody in your corner walking through the process. Me, I had my aunt who's my agent, right? She was also my title escrow agent, all that. So she knew real estate. She's been investing as well. So I did that and I felt comfortable doing it because I had somebody in my corner that did it as well. I would give anybody advice that's new to real estate investing to start with just a simple buy and hold if you can, or start with a very light flip. I'm not even going to say wholesaling because a lot of people that get into real estate, they probably already have a 9-to-5. And if you're wholesaling, that's really a full-time job.
Yeah.
You have to talk to sellers, you got to talk to buyers, you got to negotiate contracts. It's a whole different side of real estate that can take up a lot of time. So if you are getting started, get your first buy and hold property. House hack something. Go buy a property with 3.5% down, live in one side of a duplex or a triplex or a quad, rent out the other rooms.
Yeah.
Now you're immediately an investor, you're an entrepreneur, you're a landlord, you're everything in one that way, right? But then also if you have a light flip like I had, my condo, I put maybe $15,000 into it, right? So not that everybody has that money, but if you do have the means to do a light flip on the property and you can put in some hardwood flooring, You can put in some granite countertops. You can put in a new cabinetry. You can paint a property and make $20,000 on that first flip. It's proof of concept,
Yeah.
right? So your first project or your first property doesn't have to be a home run. It's just proof of concept. Okay, real estate works. It's real. What I'm hearing is actually true. And then from there, you scale up. So I would definitely say either get into a really light flip or get into a buy and hold property that you can house hack, live in one unit and rent out the rest and be a landlord.
Loving it. I'm loving it. I'm learning too. So we on the bird. We on the things that beginner entrepreneurs can do or investors can do as like their entry point. You're doing all that already. What is your long-term real estate play, goal? What is, if I ask you when we sit down and, God willing, 10, 15, 20 years, what will you hope to accomplish in the real estate game? What's the end goal there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, long term, 10 years from now, I want to have over 100 million in real estate, like own 100 million in real estate easily. I want to be cash flowing at least 10,000 a month, completely financially free. But I think in like terms of chunks of years. So 10, that's a high level goal for me. 3-year goal for me, myself. I need 10 properties cash flowing. I need some sort of financial freedom. Doesn't have to be completely financially free within the next 2.5, 3 years. But if I can rely on real estate for most of my income and my 9 to 5 for part of it, I'm sitting pretty good. But definitely 10 year, I want to be at a point where I'm known in DC, Maryland, Virginia as being like that guy for real estate. For sure. So that's my high level.
Okay. So are we staying more in the residential area, or are you trying to get into that now commercial space?
Honestly, wherever it takes me, man. Like I like residential because again, I'm buy and hold. So if I can put voucher families in housing and provide value and give back to the community that way, I love that. Obviously, there's more money to be made, maybe in larger multifamily like apartment complexes, things like that, syndications. If that comes around in the corner, which I hope it does, I would love to get into syndications and commercial properties that way. But I think for me, like I want to own as many homes as possible and put families in place to live and have a healthy lifestyle and healthy living areas for themselves.
Where it's not just about the money is important, obviously, but you also want to have an impact that is bigger than just that. Okay, you're saying some words that I know a lot of people may not know, like syndication and things like that. Did you get most of your knowledge that you now know about real estate from like reading and books, or is most of it coming from when you got over analysis paralysis and stepped into it? Where'd you learn the most?
Analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis. Where you learn the most?
And I'm watching podcasts and YouTube videos and listening to different people's live phone calls and picking different people's brains, shooting people DMs on IG. Like that's really where I learned all the small terms. Really, the podcast.
Yeah.
If you want to get involved with anything in any niche that you're in, whether it's investing or not, and you want to learn about what that community has to offer, listen to the highest podcast in that network, right? So for real estate, it's Bigger Pockets.
Bigger Pockets.
Bigger Pockets.
Pause. Write that down. Bigger Pockets podcast. We not haters over here. Bigger Pockets.
Shout them out, man.
You know what I mean?
They're real.
Okay.
So Bigger Pockets is definitely where I got all the simple ground level terms, right? And they do a great job of just breaking everything down for me from how to underwrite a deal, how to talk to an agent, how to talk to a loan officer, different red flags of talking to contractors, things like that. They just break everything down to such a basic bare level to where you really can't go wrong. So by the time you do make that first step, you already kind of understand, oh, I remember hearing about this. And even if you don't know the answer to the question, you can still use the knowledge you do have. Get on YouTube, look up a quick video on how that process works itself, right? Yeah. So for me, I learned everything I know now from Bigger Podcasts. Again, people in my community, my aunt, right, different family members that have been in real estate themselves, and just trial and error.
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest learner for me is just trial and error, the biggest teacher.
Yeah.
Right? Like I learned how to talk to contractors, how to manage projects, how to run my underwriting, do my numbers just by doing it real time with my properties.
Yeah.
Right? So you got to get in the field, you got to do the actual work yourself, but dive into the content, get on YouTube, get on podcasts, read some books. I've done all three.
All three. You did all of them. You said something that I think is like, it's so real that like we're going to have to cut this because I lost my train of thought there. But Nah, all of that is important, man. I agree with you. You know, like the podcast, the books, wherever you could get the game, get it. You know, because you have to get it. But there's benefits to that analysis paralysis phase as well. It's just don't be stuck there. You know, take that first step and get out of it. You know, how what were the thoughts that were going through your head that led you to take that first step, man? Like, where I'm going with this is, how did you deal with fear and doubt, which I feel like were reasons that keep people stuck in that phase? You know, it's uncertain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what were the thoughts that you were maybe telling yourself that to get you out of that analysis paralysis phase? Or just how do you deal with fear and doubt in general? And because I know it pops up, we can't control that, but how do you deal with it?
Now I'm fearless, bro. Like when I tell you I'm a risk taker, I be taking risks, bro. Like even in the stock market, I lost some money in the stock market. I don't hold it against myself, but I learned from it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I made money, I lost money. Real estate, same type of thing, right? You just gotta, if the play makes sense on the back of a napkin and the numbers map out
Mm-hmm.
and the math makes sense, why are you not running the play?
Yeah.
What are you afraid of?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's that threshold and that point to where you either stay in analysis paralysis or you invest in yourself and you take the leap, that walk of faith, right? That step of faith.
Yeah.
That's it. And for me, us being Christians and our background being very spiritual and religious, I got God on my side, bro. So if I don't know the answer to something, I'm praying, I'm doing my devotion. I do that daily, but still I know I'm rooted, I'm grounded, and I know that somebody been praying over me.
Yeah.
So even if I do take an L on one property, that's one L, but it's not a loss, it's a lesson, right? So I'm learning from that.
Right.
I'm learning from that, and I understand that even if something does go wrong, there's 10,000 things that can go right with it. So that's just always been my mentality, even with football.
Yeah.
Like you can't get on that field afraid against the man in front of you. You will automatically lose that play.
Yeah.
So again, football to me was like that was my mindset.
Yeah.
And that's my mindset in real estate, my mindset in 9-to-5 work. Very gritty, very down in the dirt with it, very, aggressive. So like for me, the fear wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
It was just making sure that I made the right play and made my numbers were okay, everything like that, all the back end stuff. And that's kind of how I got over it, bro, was just diving in and doing it.
Yeah.
So my property I got in D.C., the first house I flipped, my dad brought it to me. It was one of his buddies who was moving his mom out to an elderly home. He said, son, I know you want to get into real estate. Do you want to try to buy their house? I'm like, well, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Ran the numbers. They made sense. And at that point, bro, I hit the ground running.
You just did it.
Hit the ground running. So it's a matter of just believing in yourself, understanding your mentality, and being comfortable with if you lose, what you lose.
Yeah.
Being comfortable with that. Right. And so I weighed all my odds, and again, it just mapped out. So I just took that step and went with it. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's real. But they say you learn more from losing than you do winning, and I think about this sometimes because I'm like, coming from where most of the teams we played on, like coming up, whether it be football, basketball, we've always usually been in environments of winning cultures.
Yeah, shout out QO, man.
Shout out QO. shout out QO, man. We was never used to losing, ever. It's like sometimes that can get you so accustomed to like winning that like I hate to lose even to this day. It could be a pickup game.
Yep.
It's like I'm just not used to losing. I don't like to lose, But I also realize when you cool down that this is like these L's. These are like the moments where you really can be like, okay, what did I do wrong to like catch this L? Like, how could I win? It's really in those moments where you learn like the most. The winning, you're on a high. You're not really thinking about like, okay, how could I have won by more?
Right.
You just I won.
But then to that point though, you remember even in high school, one of the things our high school football coach would always say, you got 24 hours to soak in this win and you move on to the next week. When we're done watching this film, which is usually that next day after the game's out of your mind. We're 0-0. That's our record right now.
Yeah.
We don't care about what happened last week. It's the next play mentality.
Right.
So that's the same kind of thing, but we take into real life now is like, if we lose, okay, we lost, but what's next?
Yeah.
What's the next play?
And when we win, we not so stuck on the win that we're not thinking about what's next. It's always what's next. Like, take it in for the moment, but it's another reason why, Kobe was my favorite player. Just his mentality was just, I feel like Kobe could win a ring, could win the championship, and he's back in the lab tomorrow. Like what's next. You never get settled, you know. That's what they say, or what I think is, you know, when you get comfortable, that's when you get lapped.
Ooh.
You know, you get comfortable, that's when people you take your foot off the gas. Because there's people who are working, you know, they're not comfortable yet.
Yeah.
So even when it comes to sports, something I notice is especially when you play on like a winning team, you come from a winning culture, you get everybody's best. You know, so you don't really have the time or the luxury of, you know, soaking in this glory of last week or something, because there's a new opponent and they're gonna play you like it's a championship.
Oh yeah,
you know,
you getting their best game. You getting their A game.
Their A game. Oh, we beat number one. Like that's what everybody wants.
Yep.
You know, so
Yep.
it's almost like added pressure that you know welcome, but you just got to be aware that, you know, when you get to the top or you're in that environment of your winning season, that's not the time to, you know, bask in your glory.
Nah,
you know?
man. And so, like, I don't know who said the saying. It's an old saying, but it's like, never let your highs get you too high. Never let your lows get you too low, right? Stay even keel. You do good, great. What's next again? Because somebody's coming for your spot, so you got to stay ready. You get too low, all right, I learned from that lesson, but what's next?
Right.
Because I need to overcome and continue to get better.
Yeah.
So it's mentality is huge, man. Not even in investing, but just in life.
Yeah.
In life, like you got to carry that mentality throughout everything you do. So,
what was the? I was reading this book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You read it?
Yeah.
It's an amazing book, man. And what do you think was a radical paradigm shift in your life? Maybe it might not have anything to do with football or real estate, but just in your life. What's a paradigm shift that you now have shifted, but one that you see most people still operate out of?
Man, so you read the book, obviously. That book, it literally breaks down the 7 habits. I think habit 3 talked about mutually synergistic relationships. For me, bro, when I read that book and I kind of reflected on what I really took in, that chapter alone stood out the most to me, because that's real estate. That's life. Your network is literally your net worth.
Yeah.
Who you know, who you can benefit with and from, who you can add value to and get value from, that will quite literally determine how far you go in life.
Yeah.
And so when I read that chapter, I'm like, bro, I'm going to partner with everybody I have on that I can for real estate.
Yeah.
If you ask any successful real estate investor how many deals they've done on their own, it'll be far less than what they've done with somebody else.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because you know, you go further with people than you do by yourself.
Yeah.
In me, I'd rather take a slice of a watermelon than a whole damn grape. I would much rather get one slice of something so big that it will grow into something bigger and have my own little grape and think I'm doing something. Like, no, I'm going to be mutually synergistic in everybody I meet. How can I add value to you? How can you add value to me and my business? Right? That's the only way you'll really grow in life. And again, when I read that kind of changed my entire mindset about real estate and just life in general.
Right.
Networking, getting to know people, getting out there. And I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I'm an extroverted introvert, if you want to call it that. So like I feed off people's energy and like where I'm at in the environment and places I'm in. So if I'm around people and I know we can just kind of grow with each other in a business sense and in a life sense, I'm gonna like you. I'm gonna be around you. I'm gonna try to help you out and add value to you and what you got going on. And hopefully it's the same thing coming back to me. Right. So that's what changed my entire mindset, bro. That one chapter.
Nah, and that's a real chapter, man. Like, it's funny because until reading that book, some of the stuff I didn't really realize, like similar to you, like the synergistic, you know, touch points. I see a lot of people now. I speak on our generation because that's what I grew up in. I feel like a lot of people, you see a big push for like the independent movement. You know, I want to be independent. I want to like, and I don't mean like in the sense of like music, like you're an independent artist. That's good. I'm talking about like people's goal is like, I want to be like just independent. I don't need nobody, like self-made. And it's like you said, when you look at the higher ups, the people who are really winning, nobody's self-made. You know, usually everybody needs help, you know, whether that's in sports, in life, in relationship, nobody wins by themselves or on their own. And, you know, reading that book taught me that like the highest level of human efficiency isn't, it's not independence. It's interdependence. You know, interdependence is what makes the world works. That's what makes the top organizations, the top ones. Is what, like you said, what's your network? What connections do you have? How can I use my skills with your skills to create something better than what both of us could have made separately?
100%.
You know, and I feel like that is, again, that's like the power of books. That's like some stuff that we were never really taught in school from like a book or a course. You know, but that's like real. That's like the best.
And it's not even seen in our community, Jamal. Like,
No.
Black people, for some reason, we are so like against and pitted against each other for some reason, bro. Like, we hate seeing another Black person doing something cool.
Yeah.
We hate it immediately.
Yeah.
We hate, and we don't want to find a way to add value and help them out. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're not taught to do that type of stuff. If you look at other communities, and I don't want to like get too religious or anything, but like other communities, they're intertwined.
Yeah.
Right. When their children are raised, they literally are. You give money to their business.
Yeah.
Help them start their business up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the norm in their community.
Yeah. Cell phone break.
That's my bad.
Say nah.
But that's the norm in their community.
Yeah.
Right. But for us, it's be independent, like you mentioned. Do your own thing. Be your own boss. That's cool and all, but until your business is failing because you didn't want to bring nobody in and help you out because you don't want to seem weak.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's something our culture has to shift as well. Just you see people in your community, lift them up, bro.
Yeah.
Like anybody
Facts.
in your community that wants to do something a part of what you got going on, bring them in.
Yeah.
If they can just help in any sense, do it.
Yeah.
You got to kind of shift that mindset as a community, man.
Yeah. It's funny because you see in like in other communities, even when it comes to like housing, you know, I wasn't planning to ask this, but now I'm curious is what do you think about like, I feel like in our community a lot, it's okay, you're 18, get out the house, you know, like our parents weren't that way, you know, but I do see it a lot. And when I look at other communities, I'm like, nah, a lot of them are like, there's no rush for you to get out. It's the rush is for you to get yourself together, but you can build here. You can stay here and then leave when you're ready. Like, when you have children, which philosophy do you think you would lean towards? You're on your own at 18, or that's not even the goal. The goal is to get you to handle life past 18. You know, stay here as long as you need, as long as you're doing something.
Right. And that, I mean, again, valid point, bro.
Which one do you want?
For me, I need my kids in the crib making sure you're okay because you're a reflection of me. I don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
You could be 29, 30. But if you're poor and you living on the side of the street, you're my kid. Like, that's a direct representation of how I provided for you and what I taught you and instilled in you growing up.
Yeah.
Right. So if my child they're struggling at 30, whatever the case is, stay home. I'm going to do what I can to do to push you and keep you accountable.
Yeah.
You're not just going to stay home and just
do nothing.
Nah. What can we do to help you get on your feet?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because that's just who I am as a person.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be the same with my kids. Right. And, you know, God willing, they have their wits about them and they're able to kind of fly by their own wings when they're of age. But if they're not, I need to do something to make sure that they are. Because, again, that's a representation of how I raise my children.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned if somebody says I'm a bad father.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
I feel like that's real. I feel like that's a good way to also teach like empathy.
Yeah.
You know, I was listening to a podcast the other day. I forgot who the speaker was. But they were saying like the most important thing to them with their kids is instilling empathy. They're like, they're not really keen on what else their kid like chooses to do. But like if your child learns empathy and understands that, usually that will take them, you know, somewhere, you know, because at least they won't be a douche. They won't be like a jerk in the world.
Yeah.
You know, they'll know what it's like to need help or to have a dad or a mom who is encourage you to be helpful to those who maybe need a helping hand, you know. Because I be hating, man. I hate when I see people who, you know, are like stuck up or have their nose up at people just because they think, oh, they make more than them or I drive a better car than you or whatever it is.
That's all home training, bro. Like you
Home
mentioned.
training.
And again, another thing in the book, bro, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the emotional bank with your parents, right? So that relationship between parent and child is critical.
Yeah.
Are your parents, and again, if you're watching this, like you might be a parent, but from a child's perspective, you can't do much of that relationship besides receive what your parents are giving you. So when you do become a parent, it is your job quite literally to show them how to be kind, how to be caring, how to be a cool person in the world, because reality is going to hit them in the face when they get out there, right? So it's on you to kind of instill that.
Yeah. Nah, that's facts. All right, man. Well, we touched on a lot here. We'll have to, run it back another time. But before we go, we'll wrap it up with this, man. What are your 6 tips for people, this year, for people in life? Just 6 life tips that you use on a daily basis or that have just helped you navigate life that you think if people applied, they will get further, in life.
Gee, 6. All right,
6.
we're gonna start from the top. Create a routine, right? Get comfortable with being in something that's gonna make you productive. If that's waking up, making coffee, showering, praying, in that order, do that. If it's something different, do that. But make a routine. Hold yourself accountable to that routine each and every day that you can. Another thing, just take action, right? No more analysis paralysis. If you have a dream or a goal in mind, take the necessary steps to get you to that starting point, and then go with it. Trust yourself, right? Be fearless, but be intentional and be smart about it. I'd say rule number 3 or tip number 3, right? So be fearless, be a risk taker, but also be intentional and be insightful about what you're doing. I would say network, meet with people that are like-minded like you, people that want to be in your community and in your tribe, attach to them and grow with them. That's number 4. Number 5, I would say stay prayed up, whether that's literally going to church, or whether that's just getting your mind right.
Yeah.
Do something for your mental and do something for your physical. Number 6, right? Get out there, take a walk, take a hike, go to the gym, work out. So take care of your mind, body, and spirit. All 3, I think I hit in that top 6, but that's my 6 right there for 2023.
I love it. Well, that wraps up another episode of Meet the Entrepreneur. Thank you for joining us, Darnell.
Always.
Love you, fam.
Love you, bro.